Welcome to Leadership, the Secret Sauce with coaches Dave Lipsky and Matt Dodson, where we are delving into the realms of leadership and coaching. Join us as we sit down with remarkable leaders and coaches, uncovering their unique insights and strategies that make them truly exceptional. We'll explore the question, what is your secret sauce and when and how did you know? Unveiling the hidden ingredients behind their success. Are you ready? Well, let's get started. Well, before we begin, a quick shout out to our sponsor, Character Matters Coaching and Consulting, where they believe your character is the compass guiding you through life's journey. Whether you're facing personal or professional challenges, they are dedicated to helping you discover and strengthen the core values that define who you are. Dave, what do we have today?
I am so excited to welcome a fabulous coach who I've had a chance to speak with in the past. And I am also looking at your website as we speak, and I'm loving the update and the pictures and the Burnout Fix book. And there's so many other things I'm excited about. But I wanted to just start off with energy level. On a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being low, 10 being high, what's your energy level right now?
Oh, such a good question to start with. I would say my energy is pretty high. I would say 7.5 to 8, which I'm proud of because it's Friday. Usually by Friday, I've been working really hard to still have a lot of energy by Friday. And then I'm in the company of two people that I really enjoy talking about something that I love. So it's pretty high.
Awesome. Are you on California time today?
Yes, California.
Okay. I'm on New York time, so
Okay.
it's approaching happy hour. I'm getting excited.
You made it through.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, Dave.
It is. Well,
that would be my walk-up song, Dave. Just so you know.
Is it 5 o'clock somewhere?
I think that's a country song. Yeah,
I like it. That's a good song.
Mm-hmm.
What's your energy level, Matt?
It's pretty high. I would say it may be a 9 right now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I'm gonna say 9.25 for me, just because I feel
0.25.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That means there's room for improvement.
There is. There's 0.75 that I can get to. We're gonna have to work on that. Part of the reason Matt and I created this podcast is we like to hang out with coaches, and we get energy from it. We enjoy it. We start off with that energy question. The other thing that we also get a lot of questions from coaches who are developing and wanting to figure out, like, what are the secret sauces of coaches and how did you discover it, and all those questions that when you're first learning to coach really are kind of those unknowns. So I'm really excited to speak to you today, and I'm going to wax on philosophic, so I'm going to turn it back over to Matt.
Yeah. It's really good. So for those of you that don't know Dr. J or Jacinta Jimenez, she's with us today. I actually first met her through Better Up. I think she's had some stints at Better Up, and we're very curious. If you haven't read the Burnout Fix, I think that's another good one, book that she wrote. She's actually spent a lot of time with a lot of companies talking about burnout. Anyway, so found it really helpful to spend time with her, asked her if she would join us. And so she's here now. So Jacinta, Dr. J, what would you like to be called today?
You could just call me Jacinta.
Okay, yeah. Jacinta. So, all right. So what is your secret sauce?
I love this question. And I took some time to reflect on it before this podcast because I really wanted to think about what is the core of my kind of coaching over time and what's the most important thing. I would say the biggest fundamental thing is the basics, like fostering connection. Like at the core, connection is that foundation for effective coaching. And I think, throughout my career and developmental process, like becoming a psychologist and then learning new coaching techniques and the science of coaching, it's so easy to get into the techniques and instead of remembering that core, that deep, authentic connection is so vital and so important. And especially in today's world where we're experiencing a connection crisis, where people are feeling lonely, disconnected at work and in their personal lives. And we know loneliness can have a huge detrimental impact on our well-being, and performance and engagement at work. And on the flip side, deep, true connection, which is harder to find in this world, can foster so much space for transformational growth and well-being. And we're wired to connect. So that's what I love about coaching. It's like this space we get to invite people into where they just hopefully, and I can talk about the components that I think make up a really good connection, like the ingredients for my sauce. But we invite them into this space where hopefully they feel like they can talk about things that maybe they don't get to talk about or think about in their day-to-day lives. And they get that hour to 90 minutes just to go there. Such an honor as a coach and privilege to hold that space and build that connection. And that's something I keep going back to, is like, wow, it doesn't matter how many cool techniques or strategies I have, it'll all fall flat if I don't have and keep reminding myself to set the stage for the deepest connection possible. And I have like 3 main ingredients for my special sauce, I'd say. I like the metaphor of a sauce.
Give them to us. You know what? But before you actually talk about that, I think this is something like really important that, if you're listening and you're trying to make sure that you do everything you can to get your ACC or whatever you want to, make sure you're doing all of the things right, but you don't have connection, like, you've missed it. Yeah. You've got a bunch of competencies that you're sort of trying to plug and play, and you missed the person sitting in front of you, right? I think that's. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I learned that the hard way in my training. I'd be like, okay, I just learned this cool new technique. Let me try it. Okay, I'm going to set the agenda, and like going with the process instead of like really the relationship first and foremost. I've experienced, it's so easy because there's so many neat techniques, but gosh, that fundamental connection is just magic when it happens.
Dave, I know you got a comment on this idea around technique, because I've heard you say something about it. Like, can you just refresh us on, like, what did you learn about technique when you were first starting? Sorry, I just find Dave has an interesting story.
Oh, and I have 20 students in a capstone class trying to get their ICF right now. And it's very interesting, Matt, because I'm trying to track back to the story and actually remember it, but I'm just hedging until you remind me what it is. But I've reviewing. Have you ever reviewed like 20 hours of? And it's fascinating of trying to hit the competencies and the markers of how you can get so lost in technique and forget there's a person in front of you.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it is sometimes the reviewing, like reviewing myself on tapes, reviewing others. That's when I get to kind of see it. Yeah.
Hey, Matt, what good story did I have that I forgot?
Oh, well, I'll tell you the story, Dave. Y'all tell your story. You said when you were doing the training to be a certified coach, you thought, hey, look, I'm just looking for this is the one I hear is, I'm just looking for the powerful questions. I just ask the right questions in the right way, then, that'll create this amazing insight for this person, and it'll just unlock it for them. And I'm like, well, it's very understandable that we're given a list of questions and we're trying to figure out, like, how do we ask them, and then just lose sight of that there is a person in front of us. And ultimately, all of those things need to be put away or just put on the side to be pulled out at other point in time. But the most important thing is you have a person that's sitting in front of you.
Yes.
How about that, Dave? Was that a good story? That was Dave Lipsky.
Oh, man, that's a good story. Always choose connection over content.
Ooh, that is the quote. Right? That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Connection over content.
Jacinta, when did you learn, like, this was your secret sauce? Like, what did that look like? When did you learn that?
I think I always knew connection was important. I think being a first generation Latina going through business, academia, not feeling kind of a lot of representation or connection, when people would see me, like truly see me and sit with me and take the time to even say my name properly, I felt so special and lit up. So I almost knew it from receiving it. You know, those people, I love David Brooks' writing on diminishers and illuminators, and these illuminators that just shine light on you and just kind of get so deeply curious, and you just leave feeling so uplifted, and I felt more connected to myself. And so noticing that right away, like what a gift, like someone who's taking the time to truly see all the parts of me, because I'm I am, you know, I have a lot of different intersections. Like I'm a, you know, a former professional dancer, but also, you know, a science nerd, but also someone who helped build a really large startup. And so seeing all the parts of me and not just seeing me in one stereotypical box, whereas diminishers kind of go typecast people, kind of don't look deeper, don't come in with curiosity. So I got to be around illuminators and go, oh, that's it. And then in school, learning all my techniques and then coaching, that's when I was like, oh, the content, the big questions. And it kind of felt fumbly. And over time, I've learned to put, as like Matt said, put them kind of there in my little toolbox on the side, but just focusing on the person and illuminating them as much as possible. So, yeah.
I love the light. Robert Fulghum wrote a book. Everything I learned in kindergarten.
Yeah, I know that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the stories is about this child that used to take a broken mirror, and just shine light in places. I think on the island of Crete, and that illuminated story is so powerful.
Yeah.
So, like, how would, like, when you're looking at a client, right, and you're in front of a person, and you're looking to shine light, what are you looking for? What is that experience like?
Yeah, well, this comes to the ingredients. So I first start with like, and this is from my psychology background from Carl Rogers, like this idea of unconditional positive regard, that you just see someone as inherently good and you look for the pieces of them that are shining, and sitting there with a deep compassionate approach to trying to amplify those parts of them and let them kind of mirroring back those pieces. So compassion is such a big one, and it's so tied to their own psychological acceptance and well-being. It's crucial for individuals to truly understand themselves, to have that unconditional positive regard. It also allows them to reduce their stress response physiologically. And when we really connect with someone, we experience biobehavioral synchrony. Like it's kind of amazing. Like that mirroring process syncs up. Our cellular level can even sync up. Our neuro pathways that are lit up sync up. Barbara Fredrickson has research on this, and it's just incredible. It's these micro moments of just deep connection that make someone come alive. So I think it starts with that unconditional positive regard, this Rogerian theory, which is the basis of compassion. So it's my first C. I have 3 C's of coaching that kind of build out the connection piece. Yeah.
What are the other 2?
The other one I think is obvious to a lot of us, those big question whys, like curiosity. Like just being very curious and modeling that curiosity for a coaching client, like stepping outside of ourselves, like what's the evidence for and against this thought? What's the story we're making up about this person? And everything's just data. Like, let's look at the data, let's run. And so between coaching sessions, I'll even have them run an experiment, I call it. Like that's their homework. Try out this thing, report back on the data. Let's just get curious. It's not good or bad, it's data. And I think that fosters this cognitive flexibility to break up mental models of maybe how they're seeing things that aren't adaptive for them, and shake things up so they can adapt new mental models that are more that work better for them for whatever their coaching goals are. So I think curiosity plays such a big role, and I think as a coach to model it, like even if I don't know, I'll be like, I'm confused right now. Like I'll call myself out and show that curiosity as well too. Yeah.
I like that you're calling it data, because like we're so judgmental. Like I listened to like the first podcast that Matt and I did, and I was like, I too much judgment. So like looking at data, like depersonalizing it and giving them assignment, I really like that. I want to try it.
I like that you said that, depersonalizing it. That's the key. That's it. Yeah. And I had to do it to myself now, because I can judge myself. Like the new website, I'm like, oh, like after I put it up, I had like the vulnerability hangover. I'm like, that was too much information about my life. I want to take it down. And I'm like, has anyone said any of this? Yeah. Let's look at the data. Is anyone saying this is bad? So it actually kind of fosters that unconditional positive regard within ourselves in some ways too. Yeah, it's a great point, Dave.
And I think actually that, this idea around value judgments that we place. And so as a coachee, I'm not going to say something. Like I won't say it because I'm worried. It doesn't take long for me to begin to like censor what I'm going to say, because I know when I say it, when it comes out, that's going to sound like, Matt, you're an imposter. Like, oh, you're just, oh, actually, you're really not. You don't really know what you're doing here. And I haven't experienced that with a coach, whether a coach has been so judgmental about whatever I'm going to say. But boy, I tell you, like, it makes me think twice. Like, and then I'm like, wait, this is just information. This is just how I see it at this present moment. And they're just looking for more data, and I am afraid to say it. I mean, that's more information.
Yeah, it's information, right? Yeah. And I feel like that's what 360s are, is a data gathering process, and that we look at the data, and so all of it is information. It makes a little bit less weighted, right? Like scary. But I need to remember to do that with myself, because as a coachee, I'm like, I do the censoring thing too, Matt. Like at times I'm like, oh, why didn't I share that? There's a judgmental piece here. Yeah.
See, I'm going with Dr. J for this one. Dr. J, if you were coaching me, I would seek your approval.
Ah.
How would that help or hinder the connection, the coaching, all the stuff that you talked about?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there is this piece about like this research called the Pygmalion effect, where people will rise or fall to whatever kind of standard you hold them to. That's more for leadership. I think for coaching, it's really about like there is no good or bad here. The goal is for us to be as authentic as possible. And I think maybe that's something I need to, reflecting on it now that you said that, Dave, is just reinforce to clients like, hey, my approval, like what I think, I say this a lot, doesn't matter. And I say this at the beginning when I'm building the coaching, like kind of agreement, is like, you're an expert on you. I will never know as much about you and everything you've been through than you will. And I'm really good at the coaching stuff. So we have to be together. We have to work together and form an alliance to really unlock those things. But at the end of the day, it's you arriving at your insights, your desires, your ability. But maybe a little bit more process comments to check that approval piece too. It's a good point. It's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is always a really good question. What would you want from a coach?
I want a coach that has done their work or is doing their work. So someone who's like, I'm in coaching, I've done a lot of therapy. Like I'm always like, oh gosh, there's a lot more room to grow. I'm always curious about my, like even just Dave calling out like, hey, I'd want to, your approval. I'm like, oh, I gotta keep that in check, and so just someone who's really open to continuing to grow and examine their own internal landscape. I think I would phrase it as confident humility. Someone who's confident and very competent, but very humble at how much we don't know. And how much, I've been coaching for, too many years now, like so many years, thousands of hours, many, many clients. And the more I do it, the more I go, gosh, what don't I know? There's so much I don't know because every case is so different. So someone who seeks out consultation with other coaches, who's growing, who knows their blind spots, and it's okay even if they don't have them figured out, is keeping track of them. That's what I care about a lot. The other piece would just be the unconditional positive regard and compassion. I really need that. I don't think I can grow without someone, making sure that they genuinely care and see good parts of me and see my strengths and things that I may not see in myself, and shining those lights, because it just makes such a reinforcement of my motivation and engagement in coaching when folks do that.
It made me think, like, if it was just like a supervisor direct report type of relationship, and even that sort of unconditional positive regard is not there, it's so hard to rebuild it once it's lost.
Yes.
And to be able to feel like, oh, this person really is for me.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like they're asking me questions as if I've screwed up already. And maybe that's just data. Maybe I'm just hearing it, right? Which is, I think, the value of having a coach is to say, hey, here's the situation. Tell me what you think you're hearing. But we need that in a lot of relationships, that someone is willing to listen like long enough, and we feel like, oh, you know what? They have my back, or they're in my corner. They're going to ask hard questions. They're going to really truly care about my growth and development, maybe even to ask those questions. Anyway, I really, that's good stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Like in the management setting, like there's really interesting studies that even show, like, if a manager shows they care, even if they mess up trying to identify the emotion or like empathize, it still matters more than if they didn't even try or to hold the space. Like, even if you fumble a little bit, it's better than avoiding it and being kind of, just matter of fact too. So it translates over to leadership for sure.
I like how you described it, confident humility, and also like the unconditional positive regard. And I have this thing with my dear 86-year-old mom, who is also has adopted Matt and is open to adopting more if you're interested.
Yes.
She starts almost every conversation with, "What's wrong?"
Oh.
"Oh, nothing, Mom. Nothing's wrong." "No, really, what's wrong?" And then it goes, well, if you keep asking everybody what's wrong, eventually people want to make you happy, so they're going to make something up. Right? So it's very interesting, that positive approach that you take, and you're looking for the good in people, right? And you're believing that they're good.
Yes.
How do you learn that? How do you teach coaches that? How do you learn that as a coach? If you grew up with a lot of negativity, or you live in a lot of negativity.
Yeah, it's such a good question too. It's funny. One of my clients said, people ask me, what does she do with you? And she's like, I just told them you're like this amazing cheerleader, but it's real. And I love that compliment. I'm like, it does not sound sophisticated, and it doesn't have to be. And I think it goes through just really it has to be true. Like, it cannot be like, kind of like, you're doing great, or you said you're courageous or something. It's got to be like, wow, like really scanning when they talk, going, you are so when you speak about this, you are so passionate, you sit up differently. So I'll make like process comments, because sometimes words don't capture it right. And so I'll make a comment like, you sit up when you care so deeply about helping your leadership team. Like, you sit up differently. I see you really care. So it's more of an observation. It's not a compliment necessarily. It's an observation of moments where they shine and show these really beautiful leadership traits, and amplifying those parts for them. So they kind of get, oh yeah, I do really care. They're making me exhausted, but at the end of the day, like, I'm here and I'm sitting up and like really engaged when I talk about them for a reason. So kind of, clean observation where I'm not imparting my judgment on them. It's not about me and how I perceive them. It's about noticing these moments in them. And I do like making a lot of commentary around how they hold themselves when certain things, or how their voice lifts up, or how they talk faster. I think those comments can really make a difference. And again, it's very objective. It's not it's not just me going, "You're so smart." That wouldn't feel authentic.
That's the Stuart Smalley Saturday Night Live. You're good enough.
Yeah.
Right? I do like, I think, unconditional curiosity, like to combine a couple of your words.
Yeah.
It's very, I kind of like it. Like I feel that.
Yeah.
And if you're making it up, like, or you're putting it through a lens, people know it.
They
Right?
do. They do. Yeah. And I don't want to come across pandering or something else. Like, I really do want it to feel authentic for them.
Yeah, just you know what? The word that also came to mind to me was like intent as a coach.
Ah.
Like if I have a positive intent, or just, this is why I like just take a moment before a coaching session and to think like, you know what? This person they're taking time out of their day and talking about whatever their relationship challenge or their difficulty, or they're not just giving me a laundry list of their to-do list. They're talking about the things that are really hard for them, or difficult, or challenging, or positive, extra positive, that we're like, hey, I really want to share this. And then we ask them a question, and they'll oftentimes, I think when I ask like, hey, what was your big takeaway? It's something so different than I thought. Oh, you told me to go home and ask my wife this question. I was like, I did not mean for it to be about that one, but glad you listened. Right. Anyway.
Oh, it's so beautifully said, though. I've had so many times like that where I'm like, oh, they come back and it's like something I didn't even think would resonate, the small little moment in time. But I love the intention, because you like set me up, Matt, for like the third C in my little recipe, my 3 C's of coaching. And that's courage. Like being courageous as a coach to be vulnerable ourselves and embrace vulnerability, and then challenge them to get into their comfort, their stretch zone, just a little bit, so that they can, and be going in there with them, right? Like hand in hand, we're going to go in and look at this really heavy thing. But I think it requires intention to be courageous, like in a coaching session. And say provocative things, not crazy provocative, but things that are going to like catch them off guard a little bit.
Lovingly provocative.
Thank you. That's the best way.
Yes.
To say it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How does courage, like, position courage with purpose, as you think about how does that position for you? What does that look like?
Gosh, I love talking to both of you. This is like the best. These questions are so good. Oh yeah, you're coaches. So I think, I think purpose is a big part of tied to courage, because if we just anchor things on that. So a lot of times with coaching, when I am asking like a caring or lovingly asking a provocative question, I will tie it to their North Star. So if there's a figure in their life that really matters, like your father, and that's a big piece of their value system or purpose, what would he advise you to do at this point? Or what values did he emulate that you want to make sure you're emulating in this big decision? And so just having that purpose forefront, I just always phrase it as the North Star, whatever their purpose is. And usually that's early on in the work. We do values, identification and all these key purpose piece, so we can use that. Gosh, Dave, you're just blowing my mind. That was a great question, because I'm like, I don't know if we can have the courage without the purpose there, because the purpose is kind of like our little, I feel like it's a flotation device. We're getting pushed off the ledge, into the ocean. Like, oh, okay, I got my purpose here, though. It's going to help me float, and that it's worth jumping off into that cliff and taking that leap of faith in the coaching session as well. Yeah.
That you reminded me of something, recent conversation I had with that voice that's talking to you. in your head, like a parent, like that really strong voice.
Yes.
And and when you look at it, like, whose voice is describing your purpose, right? Like, is it yours? Right? That's like, you learn some things and you want to satisfy so many people and make them happy. And what if that disappears? And what if there's just you? What's
Mm-hmm.
that voice?
Oh, it's good. That's really good. Because it really is just uncovering like all the different armor that people have put on or all the different layers to get to that core. And that's scary. I mean, that armor is there for a reason. It's protective. It was adaptive for so long, but it may not get us to the next level of where we want to go. It's like that, what got you here won't get you there. Piece. Yeah.
Well, how about 3 resources that you would recommend besides the Burnout Fix? If anybody hasn't read that, I would just say this about the Burnout Fix. So if you really want to get to know Jacinta, like on a very personal level, read the Burnout Fix. You hear about her brother, about her family. Just it's very disclosing, I would say, right? Because
Yeah.
it's your story. But what other resources would you recommend?
Yeah, I one of my favorite books. It's very short, but I have read it numerous times and I recommend it to a lot of clients is Let Your Life Speak by Parker Palmer. And it's about vocation, like not just job. So it's really tied to this concept of purpose. Like what is our calling? And he says we spend a lot of our lives unlearning the things to get to the core of who we are. And before you can know what to do with your life, you have to listen to what your life is telling you. What is our life like? Just like Dave, you were saying, like, what's that core? Like, how are we living our lives? When do we feel the most aligned? What is it telling us? And how do we use that to um, build a life that we want? So I love the title, even Let Your Life Speak. Like, it's already there. It's just about kind of uncovering the treasure that's there. And so I think it's a very nice complement to coaching. It's a really powerful read. It's short. And I offer it to a lot of clients. The other one is the David Brooks, How to Know a Person, about illuminators and diminishers. I just love it because it's just like, how do we really know someone? And so it really, I think it's great for coaches and for leaders, like leaders who want to learn how to have a coaching approach. So I send it to a lot of the leaders I work with, just so they get the key elements of like, open-ended questions, reflective statements, all these, like for coaches, like advanced coaches, it feels like breathing air at a certain point. Not always. I choke a lot, but they're so fundamental to true leadership and communication and engaging and inspiring others. So those two I love. And then Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Just it's so beautiful about the story of resilience and meaning and purpose and eternal locus of control. And that's what I think coaching really does, is it fosters a clarity of who we are. What can we control? Our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors, our alignment with our values, and what's out of our control. The economy, weather. There's a lot of stuff in this world right now that aren't in our control. We have to just a lot of things going on right now. So I think it just shows like how do we really stay centered to who we are. And my favorite quote is from him is between stimulus and response there is a space. And I feel like coaching really dives into that space, and in that space lies our growth and our freedom. So that kind of speaks to the core of coaching. So there's a lot of them. I have a lot of books, but those are the 3 I'd recommend.
It's good. Dave, what's your reflection? You get to go first.
So I said Dr. J because I'm always nervous about pronouncing names.
Oh,
Jacinta.
yeah, Jacinta. Yeah.
Jacinta.
Yeah.
And you are an illuminator. And I just like, I've talked to you, a couple times, and in the conversations, I feel more energized. And I appreciate that. And then the C's, the courage, the curiosity, the unconditional positive regard, like foundational things that we kind of move on to like training coaches and these try advanced tools and techniques and the technology, and that's so foundational. And it's like bringing me back to like, what are the foundational things we should be focused on to be good human coaches? Thank you. And what's your new walk on song? Wait, what's your old walk on song? Is
It is Happy by Pharrell. That was, but I was, yeah, I'm kind of questioning it because I'm like, we don't need to be happy all the time. Emotions are also data. Like, it doesn't mean they're right, or it could be bad data. Sometimes we're angry and we're like, we don't know if that story's real, but it's data for us to examine. So I need a different song. And I want to take yours, Dave. I like it, the unwritten, because I feel like as coaches, we're helping people write chapters in their lives. So I may have to steal your song or copy.
No, you know what? It's not stealing, and maybe we just start up. We start a new podcast on people's walk-on songs. What do you think, Matt, Jacinta?
I'll let you and Dr. J start that podcast.
See, he switched to Dr. J now. Your reflections, Matt. You remember I had to go off script at some point, so thank you.
Let's see. One of the things that you reminded me of is this idea around connection and intention. Almost like, okay, that's something I need to actually stop for just a moment, like before being in a conversation, and not get so busy that I realize that, hey, my intent here is to really truly connect with this person that's sitting next to me. They're not physically there, but I really want to connect. And I think the one thing that, if they're willing to go there and they say something at the end of the coaching conversation, they say, oh, well, this is what really that I'm taking away, that's more information about them that I can really like go, oh, thanks for sharing that. Because what really meant something to you is really helpful for me as a coach, right? That I can maybe have some courage the next time to talk about some more, or just to be sure that I am really paying it. That the ending question is not a throwaway question. Oh, what did you take away? Mm-hmm. It's a real important question because it tells me something about what really resonates with them, and it tells me where I had a connection with them. So that's where I would go in that one. So
I love those reflections. I even have a Post-it note on my computer that I have that has my 3 elements: the curiosity, compassion, courage, to remind myself, because I sometimes go, oh, I'm not doing enough special techniques. And then I have to remind myself, no. Like, going back to basics, it feels vulnerable. It's courageous as a coach almost to have to really, not lay on the techniques, but really be vulnerable and present is scary sometimes, instead of falling back on that technique. So
yeah. Jacinta, is there anything that you would want to actually? How would someone get in touch with you? Yeah. If an organization or even as an individual, how would they? What's the best way to connect with you?
LinkedIn is always great. I post a lot of content on LinkedIn, just like little things. And then my website, drjacintajimenez.com. And it's new and revamped and vulnerable, which I'm laughing because it's an uncomfortable laugh. I'm trying to get used to that. But I also think the story is important to be courageous as a coach. So yeah, my website and LinkedIn are the best places to get hold of me.
Great. Dave, I want to give a shout out to our last sponsor and anything else?
I have that, and I'll do the shout out, and then I'll say something about Dr. J's website. I just have to remember it though. It's going to be really good. I promise it's going to be good. And if
why don't you say it? You could say it first, Dave. So that
you want me to say it first? Okay, because I was going to say, right. The pictures that you have up there are so human.
Oh, good. That's what I was going for.
Like, I was looking at that and I was like, yeah, like because I look at a lot of the websites and I'm talking to students about branding all the time. And I'm going to, if it's okay with you, I'm going to use this as one of the examples of like, how can you be vulnerable and show up as yourself, right? And give that professional presence where people want to, right, pay you money to
Yeah.
coach them. So well
Thank
done.
you.
Well done. Are you feeling stuck or overwhelmed? Character Matters Coaching and Consulting provides leadership and consulting to help you reach your full potential. Visit charactermatters.us.com to talk to Matt about their transformative coaching and how to get connected for your organization.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you for having me. And thanks for having a moment of really nice connection, too. Cheers to that.
Thanks, Jacinta. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate having you on the show. Until next time.